Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you very
And
much.
welcome back to The Daily Show, but to the show?
Yeah, this is a totally different show.
This is like a new world. Is it weird for you? Because I've like changed everything in the build. Is it weird? Do you like not know where you're going and stuff?
It is very strange. Nothing looks familiar at all. You really did like a gut renovation in this place. And like it was like you bought a Brooklyn brownstone and you were like, all right, I'm gonna gentrify the shit out of this.
Oh man, it's great to have you back in the structure.
Yes,
At least. Welcome back to the structure, and congratulations on the second season of your show. You know, a lot of people loved you on The Daily Show because they were like, oh, Wyatt gets out there into the streets and he tackles a subject.
Yeah.
But that was for like 5 minutes, 3 minutes at a time. Your show really stretches out a subject. You take your time with it. Why do you do it that way? I mean, like, John Oliver does it over a week. I'll do it in a day. You do it over a season. Why does it take that long?
I mean, one, because I talk real slow. So that's part of it. No, it felt like to spend a season on something was really interesting because, you know, with The Daily Show, we would do a story and then we were sort of at the mercy of the news cycle.
Right.
And so it felt like, okay, yeah, if you wanted to do an interesting story about education, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, Donald Trump just took a shit on somebody's Mustang, we got to talk about that. And it's like,
I remember that day.
Yeah, no. It's really weird that he did that, but also that we weren't more outraged.
I think we were tired that day, my friend. We were tired.
Yeah, I would love if that somehow, if people were like, just going and asking him now, like, we heard you took a shit on a Mustang. And I feel like he's so arrogant, he'd be like, yeah, I did. Like, he just won't deny anything.
Biggest dump ever. But yeah, you really go into a topic. Like, for instance, season 1, I truly loved because you went into policing. And I remember, like, you tackled every single piece of policing. You know, it wasn't just a simple subject. It was like from the police's perspective. It was from, you know, like the criminal's perspective, even from kids who are in juvenile detention, etc. And that became the jumping off point for education, which is season 2.
Right.
Like, how do you jump from policing to education?
I mean, I think so much of, you know, when you think about policing, so much of our approach to policing is that all of the societal cracks that exist, then it's like, well, just send the cops at them.
Right.
And so when you think about, well, what's the foundation that could set people up in a better way, that could, you know, have impacts on people's ability to get jobs, on crime. Education is one of those things. If you give everyone access to quality education, we have enough data to say, oh, crime statistics go down, teen pregnancies go down. Like, there's so many things that are impacted by that. And so it felt like, oh, okay, let's look at education because it really is this building block. And if a kid gets pushed out of high school at the age of 14, they are at a much higher probability of finding themselves headed off to a prison.
Right.
And so it feels like, oh yeah, let's look at education because that may be a way, if you can get people to like buy into, right, we need equitable education for everybody, that may be, oh, thank you. It's always fun when they clap like that, as though I can like sign that into law. Like, enough of you clapped, and yes, now it's happening. You wake up tomorrow, everyone's gonna have an equitable education. No, I can't do that. Stop it. No, it's not how it happens. It's by voting and going to school board meetings.
One of the most intriguing parts of the season that I watched was seeing how you were talking about education and the way we approach it in the world, but specifically in America, and how you said you feel like it's ignored the way it is, predominantly because most teachers are women. It was an interesting, you know, journey to be on, where you go like, people are just like, oh, the teachers want more money again. You know, it's like these women want more money. But it really did start to feel like, oh no, if this were a male-dominated field, there would be a different approach to that. Like, when you're working through the season and you're discovering these pieces, like, is there a way to change it? I mean, you say the claps can't, but like, is your show trying to give people a solution, or are you just trying to highlight it so that people know how they vote and what to do?
I mean, I think it's a little of both. I think on the one hand, you do want to highlight these things. And yeah, when you think about something like the teaching profession and how it is a majority female profession, when we're having all of these conversations right now about gender dynamics and about, equal pay and sexual harassment and all these things, we're talking about women's civil rights. It does raise a question for me, well, is the teaching profession, should that be part of that conversation about women's civil rights? And so some of it is trying to have those conversations, and some of it is also looking at, well, there are people who are on the ground who are trying to make change, and what does that change look like, and is that change replicable?
Right.
Is there something that somebody has done? Our first season we looked at policing, and we looked at things like restorative justice, and looking at something like restorative justice and wondering, okay, it's working in Oakland, they've got the DA on board with it, they are working with it with law enforcement. Is that a model that could then expand to Los Angeles, could expand to Topeka, Kansas? Could it expand, and is that how we can have different conversations about something like the criminal justice system or education by showing people that models do exist, and now maybe you could take that model and build off of it? And it's like this old house. Like once you see somebody build a banister, you're like, oh, maybe I could do that. And that's why I have Wyatt Cenac's banister store on Etsy.
Dude, congratulations on 2 amazing seasons. Here's to a third, hopefully.
Yes.
Welcome back to the show. Wyatt Cenac's Problem Areas as Fridays at 8, 11 p.m. on HBO. Wyatt Cenac, everybody.